Hi, my name is Sydney Jones, and this is my presentation for writing and the classes for advanced literacy and social studies. So, the five developmental stages of writing. Number one is scribbling and drawing stage. This is going to be like the pre-kindergarten stage. This is where the children are just drawing circles or not even circles, they're just kind of scribbles. That is where you are that is very perfectly normal for children to be in that age and only be scribbling and drawing. So the pre-phonemic stage would be towards the end of pre-kindergarten and early kindergarten stages. That is where they are able to draw faces. They're making their parents. They're drawing themselves. That's the pre-phonemic. So that is going to be pre numbers and letters. And then the early phonemic stage is going to be where the children are first starting to put in those letters. So they can write their names. Um, they can write their parents' names. They can write dad. They can write mom. And then the letter naming stage is where they are able to um, put those letters that they have learned into and write it down on paper. So they know what they're saying, they know what they're doing. And then finally, that's going to be the transitional stage. That is where these students are able to write full body paragraphs. And even if it's not the prettiest or they don't necessarily have the right word structure in there or sentence structure, they're still able to be writing. So the six traits of writing model. This is going to be, so we are basing these over here. This is the scoring level based off of the over here. So 1 through 7 is going to be what we are grading, and then the 1 through 6 is going to be how we are grading them. So ideas and content first. That is going to be how a student comes up over what they are going to be putting into their paragraphs, into their writing, and we are grading on how original or their originality. So ideas and content, that's going to be, if we go ahead and just go straight across the board here, that's going to be at the beginning. So paper needs significant development. That is where the student is, their ideas are just all over the place. They have no idea what they're even trying to get across to another person, or they had all these ideas come down at once and they're just putting them down on the paper and they're not really cohesively putting a paper together. Next is organization. So that is going to be how a paper is written and if they are really following those ideas through and putting them into the right order. So if we just go right across again and give it at emerging, that's where they still need significant improvement. So emerging would be that those organizational skills, they have the bodies of paragraphs, but they're not really grasping where that needs to be. Or if they're not making paragraphs, if they're not writing that big of things, then they might say the cat ran, and then they could say next that the cat is eating something, and it's all over the place, and they're kind of starting to get where it's supposed to be. For voice, that is going to be how the author is putting their ideas or their feelings into the paper to where we can tell who is writing it based on what we know about that person. So for develop that, if we went ahead and went with developing on that, so the writer only partially in control of the writing. So that would be that they kind of have their voice in there. They're kind of getting across where they're going, but they're not quite where they need to be yet, but they are getting there, and we can see significant improvement from beginning. Word choice, that would be as long as they're not using, like I am saying a lot, the ums and the and repeating I's a lot in their sentences. Word choice, really making sure that they are really grasping the content of picking words and using the correct choices. So that would be at proficient if we went across the board here. And proficient shows more strengths than weaknesses. That is where we want our students. That shows that they are on grade level or projecting towards grade level. And that is going to be for sentence fluency, that would be that they are really choosing the right one. Okay, and then for word choice. Okay, so sentence fluency would be that the sentence makes sense. They are organizing their thoughts in there. They are really putting, instead of just for, like I said, the cat ran, they're not saying ran the cat. So if we went for strong, that would be where the student is modeling um, many strengths and seems to be perfecting control of the writing. So they are understanding where those sentences go, where those words go, and how it's supposed to be written. For conventions is going to be the structure of the sentence. So that's going to be the grammar, the spelling, the grammatical, how we follow along the rules of writing. So if we went for exemplary, that would mean that that student understands, they're grasping, they're not grasping for straws, they're grasping the concepts. They understand that a period goes at the end of the sentence, where the comma goes, and how to really spell those sentences. And then finally we have presentation, and we'll just go back for exemplary here. And presentation is going to be how they are presenting their work. So if we later on in the slideshow, we're going to have where they do the author's chair, where they go up and they present their papers. That would be for presentation. Or if they, for instance, if the students published a book, for my students at the end of the year, they publish a book that they have written all year long, and they are going to be presenting those papers. Okay, so evidence-based teaching approaches. So how do we get our students there? How do we understand, or how do we know that our students are where we want them to be? So we as teachers are going to be providing time every day for students to write. There should be no gap in allowing our students to just sit and not be writing. Teaching students to use the writing process for a variety of purposes. So that would be if we are writing for a book, or we are writing for a paragraph, if we are making a letter to Santa Claus, making sure that the students understand that there are different reasons to be writing and different reasons to convey what we are trying to get across, and how powerful of a tool writing really is. So teaching students spelling, handwriting, and keyboarding. So it is not just writing in for pen to paper. That is going to be where we're making sure that the students are correctly spelling and not just using the where you can, it underlines the word and it corrects it, so the autocorrect, and making sure that their handwriting is on to where it should be, because I can tell you, as teaching fourth grade, their handwriting is terrible and we cannot read their handwriting, so we really try and work on that handwriting. And keyboarding, keyboarding is very important because a lot of the things that we are doing today, we're going to college online. Keyboarding is extremely important. So creating an engaged community of writers. So why is it important for students to really understand what another author is trying to convey? Because if we get the students really interested in reading, then therefore we get them interested in writing, and then they can share with their other peers what they're supposed to be sharing. So this is for Tier 2 interventions. This is going to be for the students that struggle on a Tier 2 level. So the POW plus tree, I have a graphic over here to kind of show what it is. So for the number one, for a student that is going to be in that intervention group, they're going to, number one, for P, pick an idea. Then they're going to write how they're going to organize their ideas. And then they're going to write and say more. Okay. And then for, sorry, my computer skipped. Why is it doing that? And I was almost all the way through this. There we go. Okay. All right. So for the tree, so the topic sentence is making sure that that topic sentence is at the beginning and what do you believe? The topic sentence, like the trunk of a tree, supports the belief. That student is making sure that they are setting out exactly the outline of what is supposed to be writing about. R would be reasons. So, three or more reasons. Why do I believe this? Why is this important? Will my readers believe this? Do I have the counter argument? So, if a student or the reader is going to be reading this and they're like, well, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Why are you saying that? Well, what is the author's counter argument and how are they going to put it into their paper? Does it change their beliefs? Would it change their beliefs if the counter argument made a good point? Explain reasons. So say more about each reason. So the student, as they're reading through this right here, they're going to kind of have guidance as to what they are supposed to be putting into their papers. And then generous reading, that is making sure that students, in order to be able to write, you must first be able to read. Making sure that those students are really reading and taking time. We use AR in our school, and I know that that's kind of, it's not every school uses it, but it's making sure that those students get enough points and then they are rewarded at the end. My students just went paintballing. So it's really just making sure that those students are still continuing to read at their grade level and where they should be reading at their level in order to be able to convey their beliefs into their own writings. So motivating and engaging students to write. So this is where the teacher is going to really have to focus on it. So Write Talks was one, and I chose two for myself. Write Talks is asking students to identify and discuss adults they might admire. So these are where the teacher is going to give students prompts, and then they are going to talk about what they wrote. And it's not only them, the teacher is going to be able to invite guest speakers into the classroom, and they are going to really engage the students. So ask students to identify and discuss adults they admire. So that could be their parents, that could be a pop culture figure, that could really be anybody. So invite students to give Write Talks in class. So that would be where the students, you're inviting them to come up to the front of the room and share their beliefs and why it's important to them. So ask students to prepare a list of questions. So that would be for the guest. So if you have a guest student come or guest teacher coming in or somebody else, then you're going to ask them, say, hey, I would like you to write down a list of questions that you may be able to ask later on after the speaker has presented. So, and then, so photo library, that's one that I thought was pretty cool. That is going to be using photos as prompts and ebooks. So a elementary school, and I forgot where it was according to the book, but a elementary school put out different prompts, different writing, different books, so that this and pictures of them, so that the students saw them all over the school, and then they can pick what they wanted to write about. And then, so number three, and I kind of forgot about this one, but author's chair, that's where you invite the student to come up and talk about their writing. So some students aren't going to want to do that, but we have to make sure that we are creating an engaging environment and a welcoming environment for every student. And finally, we have the writing workshop. So the writing workshop is going to take 60 minutes. So at the beginning, the teacher is going to be sharing their time, and that could take between 5 to 10 minutes. That includes like a time for the teacher to really get involved with the students and kind of lay out the groundwork for the mini workshop that we're going to be doing. And then for a mini lesson, you'll have a mini lesson for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you're going to determine the state of the class. Where is the class at? What are they going to be doing? And really make sure that you are explaining how the writing workshop works for the students. For the first 10 minutes of it, when the students are released to themselves, they're going to be pre-writing and drafting and possibly revising. So they are going to be sitting down ideas. They are going to kind of do an organization tree and kind of figure out where they're going to go in